Patricia.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
I'm going to ask some questions on art. Do you like art?
Well, I've always been fascinated by the fine arts, especially the paintings by Monet and Michelangelo.
Have you ever visited an art gallery?
Yes, I went on a trip to the Louvre in Paris, and I happened to visit quite a lot of art galleries. In fact, I wanted to take a look at the Mona Lisa, but unfortunately, the timing was not right, so I couldn't really lay my eyes on that fascinating piece of art.
Is there any artwork on the wall in your room?
In fact, there is a particular space, a corner in my house that is adorned with paintings from collected from all over India. I like the bold brush strokes, especially the bold colors. I think they make a fantastic addition to my house.
Have you ever had art classes?
I only remember the classes that I had when I was in primary school. Art classes was something that I looked forward to, and I would dabble with the crayons and the watercolors, etc. But then I'm also honest enough to admit that I really don't have what you call an artistic streak. I really cannot draw something that is really good enough for other people to view.
Now about laughter. Did you laugh recently?
Yes, I laughed my heart out because I live with people at home who constantly crack jokes. They're probably imitating another person, and my husband has an amazing sense of humor. So yes, I really laugh my heart out.
Do you often make people laugh?
I don't think so. People generally tell me that I have a sarcastic streak to myself, so I don't usually goof around and try to make people laugh, but with probably the examples that I share when I'm trying to drive a point or something, people eventually begin to laugh.
Do you like movies that make you laugh?
Yes, a very good, those kind of movies where humor takes the forefront is something that I would like to spend an evening on watching. I recently watched a Hindi movie. I can't really remember it, but it was an absolute laughter riot, and my stomach was literally hurting after laughing so much.
Right. Now about pens and pencils. How often do you buy pens and pencils?
I rarely do. I work in an office, so there's a constant supply of pens and pencils rarely. So I really don't remember the last time I went to the shop to pay for a pen or a pencil.
What types of pens and pencils do you buy?
I am very, though I don't buy, but I'm very particular about the kind of pens that I use. I don't like that is something that writes very light. I like something that is really sturdy, dark and legible. And I'm known for throwing away pens literally into the dustbin if they're not dark enough to suit my taste.
When was the last time you bought a pen or a pencil?
I guess it was a couple of years back when my husband was traveling abroad, and I wanted him to have, a pen, a branded pen, which would probably look good with the tuxedo that he was wearing for a particular occasion. So I remember looking up certain brands like Monte Carlo, and though it was a little expensive, I did buy him a Monte Carlo pen.
Do you usually use a pen or a pencil?
I'm not patient enough to use a pencil. I like the bold strokes, so a pen is what I would go for.
Now part 2. Describe a person who has apologized to you. Who this person is, when this happened, what this person said for apologizing, explain how you felt about the apology. I give you 1 minute time for preparation.
The moment that I read this topic, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is an incident that happened when I was in the final year of my graduation. I was we were a class of around 50 students, and I was really happy to be in the college. I had made a lot of friends and everything. I was also the president of the debating society. So my friend Priya and I, we were thick as thieves. We were really friends, and there was an incident that happened between the both of us where she did not take my advice, and it really did not turn out well for her. And eventually, she apologized to me for not having paid attention. So I'm going to narrate that incident to you. This happened, I guess, way back in the early 2000. In the year of early 2000, so, and she was in a relationship with a person. She was seeing a common friend of ours, and just because I knew my friend Priya in and out, I advised her that this was not going to work out for her eventually in the long run. But she was happily dating this person, and she was on cloud nine. She was deeply in love. Her head was in the air, and she was unwilling to listen to any rhyme or reason that I tried to that I made to put sense into her head. And you know how it is when people are love struck. They are on cloud nine, and she was neglecting her studies. She was failing her tests, and she also began to skip the classes. She was an honor student as I was, and we were in fact the toppers in school. But I could clearly see that this guy that she was seeing was a bad influence on her. And at the end of graduation, we were close contenders for the title of the class valedictorian. But because her grades slipped and she was not able to really catch up, I eventually won the title. I should have been proud at that moment, but unfortunately it did not feel like much of a victory because my friend had lost. So on the last day of college, she walked up to me and she thanked me for having stuck by her through thick and thin, and she apologized to me with all sincerity. It was a very emotional moment where she cried her heart out, and she said how she wished she had listened to me. But then she thanked me for supporting her no matter what. So that's the incident that comes to my mind.
Now part 3. In what situations do people say sorry?
We say sorry probably when we step on another person's toes, or when we know that we have definitely done a mistake and you cannot probably get away without saying a sorry.
Should people apologize for anything wrong they do?
I highly recommend people do so, because apologizing to another person only makes you larger. It does not make you smaller in any way.
Why do some people hate to say sorry?
I guess ego comes into play. It's difficult for them to admit to the mistakes that they have done. They probably feel a little small.
In what situations should we apologize immediately?
When you know that damage has been done, it would make sense to render an apology to make sure that the other person feels better.
When was the last time you found it hard to accept an apology?
It happened, I guess, as close as last week, because I can only be forgiving to an extent. But a colleague of mine was repeatedly making the same errors. So when they eventually told me that they were sorry, I was skeptical. I couldn't simply let it go without allowing them to face the consequences.
What is necessary to become a successful businessman?
I guess you should have what you call a business acumen. And I think you should be willing to grow, not at the expense of another person, but if you're that kind of a person who wants the entire world to grow with you, I think that would make you a fantastic businessman, because it's a win-win situation.
What challenges and difficulties do people face when they try to have a successful small business?
Raising capital would be the biggest challenge. Finding investors is something that can drive you crazy. Then finding people to believe in your product and getting your first customers, I think they would be the primary challenges.
How can small business benefit the people in the community where the businesses are located?
Well, for starters, when a small business thrives, the local community gains employment. And there is a sense of, when people have gainful employment, there is a sense of accomplishment. Their quality of life begins to increase. So those are the advantages.
What kinds of small business are most popular in your country?
Restaurants. We have one opening in every nook and corner of the city. Everybody thinks that they can open an eatery and run a thriving business. So we have those flooding our streets and cities.
Why do some people open their own business?
I guess they're tired of working for somebody else. They're tired of taking orders from somebody else. I think they're tired of the repeated bad appraisals, that they finally take the chance to venture out and do something on their own.
What do you need to start a business?
I think the foremost thing is that you need to have a vision. You need to have clarity about what you want to do and what you would like in which area would you like to make a contribution and where you see yourself down the line.
Do people in your country like to work in big companies or small companies?
Well, the bigger the company is, most people believe the larger the salary is. But there are also people who are wise enough to realize that when you are employed with a small company, or organization, you can also grow. You have the opportunity to grow with the organization. So maybe you can end up becoming the vice president or the CEO pretty quickly.
Which do you prefer, family-owned companies or non-family ones?
Well, because I myself run a family-owned company, I can't, or maybe I should not have anything against it. But what I would advise to any family-owned company is that I think the roles should be clearly demarcated. You cannot bring your familial politics into the business. There is no question of washing dirty linen in public. So I think if the roles and responsibilities are clearly demarcated, they would do a fantastic job.
What are important factors in making a company successful?
I think if you treat your employees well, if you treat your customers well, and the word of mouth really goes a long way in building the reputation of your business, your brand gets a lot of visibility. So I think those are the core areas that any organization or any business should actually be focusing on.
The last question. What emerging industries do you know?
Well, I guess the beauty industry is really picking up. It's not just the beauty parlors, but I think the advanced skin treatments for aesthetic treatments. There's a mushrooming growth of skin clinic. And I guess this is primarily because people are willing to now invest on themselves. So that is one industry which I see has great potential.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, ma'am.